Hello, crypto community. Jeff Kirdeikis here with Jason Dixon, or Titorelli as you know him, on the Spectrecoin community channel. Jason, thanks so much for coming on with us.
Yeah, no problem, man. I'm happy to be here. You know, I was telling you earlier, I ate a lot of oatmeal, filled with to the brim with fiber, ready to go on multiple levels. Let's get this thing popping. Let's get the coins are hot. Let's talk about them spicy coins.
They are definitely hot right now. Yeah, since March 22nd, Bitcoin's run from about 3K to 13K, back down to 10. There's just been such a massive burst in the cryptocurrency space right now. And also gold, in reality, I think it's hit a 5-year high right now. You know, how do you feel that this big surge in cryptocurrency is kind of relating into fiat and inherently like the value of cryptocurrency as a whole?
Yeah, so like it's interesting you compare like gold to crypto right now. The main thing I see or similarity between gold and crypto is the idea of trust, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Bitcoin gets its trust from the blockchain. It relies on a trustless system, so it doesn't rely on a centralized entity to say, hey, this has value or this doesn't have value. Gold comes from nature similarly, and its value is related to the form, right? The material value of gold. So there is a connection there. With this pump and things that are going on, in reality, we're still very much at the beginning stages, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So with this pump also comes the hangovers. There's also going to come some more doubt, you know, and I think there's still a large degree of trust that still needs to be developed for Bitcoin to become a standard like gold. But that's what makes it exciting.
For sure. We're seeing such a large price discovery right now. And I feel that, like you say, trust is such a major issue. And inherently, there's more trust to be put in Bitcoin than any central control. Because really, you can almost trust that all these central controls do not have your best interest at heart at all.
Mm-hmm.
They're very self-interested. I think the biggest thing that we're seeing in crypto right now is just this friction point where people are having a tough time onboarding onto it because of, let's say, you know, more difficult user interfaces per se. So I feel that that's the main thing that the traditional systems have on us right now.
You'll see in the future the gaps, right? The accessibility becoming easier and easier, and with that public identity of relating to Bitcoin, like my dad just called me up and started talking about Bitcoin, right? Mm-hmm. That's a sign that the public awareness is slowly awakening to this idea of cryptocurrencies. So I believe it is the future, but you know, man, I love the idea of picking up a gold block. You know, the materiality of it, the form. Sure. Sometimes I get drunk and I talk to my friends and I'm like, man, would you guys love to like hold a chunk of gold, right? Like so when we talk about blockchain, it still exists in this kind of conceptual realm for a lot of people, right? It isn't a concrete reality. But it does have ingrained with it, which is exciting, a large degree of a trust within the protocol that has been proven over time. And that's why Bitcoin's exciting, because now you're starting to see institutions noticing it and seeing the value in it.
Definitely. And like you said, institutions are really starting to take notice. Just not too long ago, Libra was launched, which is a consortium of 28 different companies. You got Visa, MasterCard, Facebook, Uber, Lyft, all coming together to create not necessarily actually a cryptocurrency, but more a digital transfer of value, I guess you could say. And it kind of brings into the question, you know, what is the importance of a decentralized currency rather than this centralized control currency?
I consider myself, I'm very conspiratorially minded, right? I don't trust what's going on out there a lot of times. You know, if somebody says they have my best interest at heart, I take that with a grain of salt.
Well, especially when they've proven it wrong or gone the other way about 3-4 times already.
And especially like since I'm such a hateable guy, you know, I'm like, why is this? You know, like why do you care about this? Sorry, I get teared up when I talk about it.
That's awesome.
It allows for there to be a. You mind if we take a break for a second?
Yeah, for sure.
The fiber's kicking in. No, my nose started running. I started thinking about my nose running.
Yeah.
And hold on one second.
Yeah, of course.
Can you edit that out? Can we do
Yeah,
edit?
of course. Yeah, yeah.
So the difference between a centralized and decentralized structure is this idea of, like we were talking about earlier, trust. Within a centralized structure, you have to trust that a company or private entity has your best interests at heart, and this isn't always the case. With the decentralized structure, trust is ingrained within the structure, so you don't have to rely on them, keeping your data safe.
Mm-hmm.
And also, there can be manipulation within centralized structure because not everything is public. What are the CEOs seeing that we don't see? How are they using the information they have that is not widely available to influence markets or create manipulations or distortions?
100%. Yeah. Whatever the centralized system is, whether it's financial institutions, whether it's social media platforms like Facebook, whether it's, Spotify or YouTube, how they're handling their affairs is they don't have to release that information. And we're pretty much at their whim. I feel like we've become what you could say disposable products to these guys. As soon as you upload your content on YouTube, it's theirs forever. When you put your money in the bank, they've been, I don't know how many times they have, or what is the deal with being able to have bank limit withdrawals? It's like, if you want to get your money out, you can withdraw 5,000 a day. It's like, hold on, whose money is this? Oh, sorry, we were lending out at 10x leverage and we actually don't have it anymore. It's like, I never gave you permission to do that. Even though it's probably implicitly or explicitly written in T&Cs, but it's like there aren't financial institutions that you can sign up for today that allow you, that keep your money in good faith and you can transparently see, which I think is such a massive value of cryptocurrency. And you mentioned privacy, which is very interesting because I find that's the biggest, maybe you could say, hole or flaw with the blockchain right now is if I want to send you some Bitcoin, unless I'm trying to obscure it through like an exchange here and whatever, you're gonna be able to see my past account, my current account, and my future account if you just keep checking the transactions. And I think we're kind of just overseeing that in the way that we oversee that Facebook sells our data and metadata. And I don't think that that's the way that we should be doing things really at all, that there's a lot of value to be had in keeping our stuff private. And, you talked about metadata, and I'd love for you to expand on that point on like what you feel the value of metadata is in today's world.
What metadata allows companies to do is build a portrait of who you are. I think the big swindle that happens is when a person is convinced that portrait that a company creates based off their habits or data created through social media, whatever, buying habits, whatever, it's a wide swath, is actually represents who they are. So that is where the ultimate manipulation happens, because when a company tells you and anticipates your movement, you think that is your free will wanting this thing, right? Suppose we get into a future where they're like, okay, Jeff would really love a drink right now. We know he loves Pepsi. So a drone comes by and you're like, and you get the Pepsi, right? And you're like, oh, this is fantastic. I love this Pepsi. Thank you, Jeff Bezos, God man. Thank you, super God man, Jeff Bezos. Thank you for sending me this Pepsi. But in reality, you really wanted a Coke, right? It takes effort to interrogate ourselves and ask ourselves what we want. So if you're not willing to take the time or go through the trouble, there will be people telling you what you want.
Yeah.
There will be a slew of companies and individuals who have vested interest in getting you on their side and telling you what you want and making your decisions for you. So when I think about privacy, I think the biggest virtue of privacy is not that you can hide, right? Not that you can secretly do nefarious things, but I view privacy as a space for self-discovery. And I think that's such an important thing in today's society is having the ability, the silence, and the space for self-discovery.
I think that's really beautiful. Actually, I got goosebumps. I just got an upgraded camera, so maybe you can see them on the HD when you talked about that. But I heard this quote just the other day, and maybe I'll butcher it, maybe I'll nail it, but it's, I am not who I think I am. However, I am who you think that I am. And so it's saying like, well, if Jeff Bezos thinks that I want a Pepsi, well, like you say, well, then yeah, of course I want a Pepsi. But you could take that out. Like if I assume that somebody thinks that I'm not confident, then I'll start to act less confident. And so, like you say, this ability to have privacy and self-discovery is so true. And I really haven't thought of it until this conversation. And that the more publicly we broadcast our lives, the more we pigeonhole ourselves into a certain identity, and maybe an easily controllable identity too. You know, you see people on social media and they're XYZ Instagram influencer or whatever. They're creating this identity that is really hard to break. And maybe this is a little bit more esoteric and not the direction we're trying to go, but in terms of like self-actualization or, you know, personal potential, I think that's really the wrong direction. So privacy, kind of like on the grandest scale, like you say, is potentially like the highest state of being able to like express yourself, which is very powerful.
Grossest manipulation of all is one you don't realize, right? Like I guess the hardest cages to break through are the ones we don't see.
Yeah.
You know, and the same thing's happening with Google. You know, Google is not. We have this idea that it's a search engine, but it prioritizes information within that search structure. It's like, oh, I can just go on Google and search freely. You know,
right?
That information is prioritized, right? And that's an element of political control in a way. You know, driving, just using maps, you know, go turn left, you know, but I know the shortcut is this way, turn left, you know, using GPS maps.
Right.
You know, but you're like, okay, I'll turn left. But inside you're like, I know the shortcut.
Yeah, go straight. You're like, there's a lake straight. I can't go into the lake. Okay.
So you know, that's kind of stuff in control can be really insidious, especially when you think how comfortable it is, how easy it is, right? Yes. Like when that drone delivers that Pepsi, you know, like it's we assume it's from us. It's like us slowly being smothered with a nice pillow that's so comfortable, and it's painful to fight back. It really is. When I think of privacy coins, I see them as tools. And they're tools for exercising personal freedom is what, you know, and sometimes they can be clunky. Sometimes they, you know, it's not the most fluid thing to use, especially since cryptocurrency is still in its beginning stages in a lot of ways. Yeah. But it is a practice to enhancing your personal liberties and actually expressing yourself, I think, more freely.
I love it. And, you know, as you were talking, you were mentioning kind of like old systems of, you know, public domain, and you're using words like comfort, or you can make complacency. And I feel that's the case, is people are just like, okay, well, this is just what the way that things are. And then when you started talking about privacy, the words shifted, and I wrote a couple of them down. It was tools, exercising, and practice. And so all three of those words are very actionable. And for someone who is just more so complacent, it's a lot harder for them to get on board. This act of taking back your privacy isn't something that's done just as it happens by itself, but it's something that actually has an action to be taken forward. And I think that's why it's so cool that you and the guys at Spectrecoin team have been creating the ability for people to be able to exercise this right for their financial well-being or their financial state, which I feel is kind of like the underlying foundation of like the root of humanity. If you can survive, and if your finances, that's like what keeps you alive. If that can be private, then everything else can flourish from there. So I think that's fantastic. To kind of go on, you know, there's lots of privacy coins out there currently. You know, you have like Manero, you have Pivx, and they're all serving different purposes. They all have different features. What do you feel like Spectrecoin is bringing to the table that's new or different? And maybe that's a very broad question, but I'll field it anyways because they're all unique. But what do you feel is the big kind of token for Spectrecoin? Like, why Spectrecoin?
So a good privacy coin should have some basic features, right? It should protect the sender, it should protect the receiver, and it should protect your IP address. Spectrecoin has all of these features. It also has something though very unique among privacy coins in that it operates on a proof of stake algorithm. So Bitcoin, for instance, it takes these computers solving puzzles and mining to create Bitcoin and validate the blockchain. With Spectrecoin, all you do is leave your wallet open, and it validates the blocks. So by just having your wallet open and online, it works to validate the network, and you receive a reward, just like you would in mining, of Spectrecoins for this. And what's great is you can do this completely anonymously. You can receive anonymous interest on your wallet and balance. So you can stake anonymously. So there's just environmental differences between proof of stake and POW, proof of work, in that
because you're not wasting any energy to proof of stake. It's essentially just keeping your computer on, keeping the lights on, and that's it.
Yeah, it's a more progressive, to me, solution, right? So with proof of work mining, you have these huge rigs, right, using so much electricity that it can be really resource consuming. There's a move I see happening in the future where a lot of coins are going to be moving from proof of work to proof of stake algorithms, simply because they're more of a sustainable solution. Ethereum's a perfect example of that right now.
So what's in the near-term roadmap for Spectrecoin in terms of developments, wallets, usability on a day-to-day?
It would be cold staking, so the ability to stake your balance without being actively online, and that would be done through a cold staking pool. You could have, you wouldn't be able to spend your balance, right, when it's cold staking, but it would be the ability to receive interest on your balance while it's offline. So that's pretty cool. The biggest thing that Spectrecoin's working on is a mobile wallet right now. So the goal is for all those privacy features to be included in a wallet. The first version will probably be, and this is hopefully in 2020, will be an Android wallet the first version will probably be light, right? So you won't be able to necessarily self-stake. You'll be able to use Spectre and transact with it, and then improvements upon that to where we get the full functionality on a mobile wallet that we have within a desktop.
Right on. That's great. And then will there be any payment integration, or will this gonna be specifically just for like cryptocurrency payments, or will there be some kind of like debit card attached in the future, or kind of QR thing, or what are the thoughts?
We just got a product now that is 100% privacy sound, right? With the ability to stealth stake. So a lot of things are very new on that front. So right now it's about just continuing moving forward with the technology. So that's something that's probably the main goal right now with the developers, rather than trying to create these cards or exchanges. Get the product sound first, and make sure that's 100% bulletproof. Then proceed, with maybe cards or things like that.
For sure.
And go on.
Yeah.
No, I was just going to say, in just kind of in a marketable sense, though, a lot of the goals right now, since we do have a solid product with Spectrecoin right now, is to enter bigger exchanges, right? Create bigger demand by just getting the word out there. Maybe pursue vendors to use Spectre, which is the private form of Spectrecoin, right? And transactions that give customers financial freedom. But all this is new, right? So it's terrain that needs to be thought about and kind of approached carefully.
I'd love to kind of expand on what you said there, with like vendors and integrating Spectre. How exactly would that look? Because I'm just kind of envisioning in my head, like when you say vendor, do you mean, let's say, a storefront or something like that, or do you mean something else?
I imagine this is in my mind, like I imagine with Libra coin, like we were talking about earlier, with Facebook, in the future, people will become more aware of how precious their personal data is.
Yes.
And so I see the creation of maybe marketplaces who promote and it becomes their niche that they do not sell or compromise your data.
Right.
And all this is new terrain, right? Like privacy coins and their use, we're in kind of a burgeoning new territory, because at the same time, we're all so public for the first time in ways, we can only imagine. And our data is being controlled and used in ways that we couldn't even think of previously, in years past. So privacy coins are something that, their use and their importance is really going to come to the forefront, I think, in the future. And markets that also have the same kind of ethos or appreciation for customer privacy will also come into the marketplace, I believe, in the future more. So to me, and when I'm thinking, trying to use a little bit of foresight here, when I'm thinking about Spectrecoin, to me, its ideal matchup is a exchange or vendor who has the same kind of ideals going into their marketplace of not sharing that data, of not exposing their customers to forces beyond their control without their consent, right?
For sure. It'll be interesting to see how that integration happens. Just thinking from an accounting perspective, you could say, it's like money is coming in, but where's it coming from? We don't know. So I think, like you said, the tech is new, this movement is new. So there's going to be a lot of changes and adaptations that have to happen. Whether you're using it at a storefront vendor, whether your exchanges are integrating this, there's going to be a very big, I guess you could say, technological curve, which is in a way exciting because, this conversation we're having, it seems very inevitable, really, that privacy is going to become more and more important to people, and especially financial privacy, and the ability to do what you want with your finances. And so to feel like we're so new in this space and that there's so many hurdles that I can think of off the top of my head, for accounting being one of them, it's like, okay, well, that's how early we are. There's so many hurdles in front of even us getting started in the race. So it's a really, really exciting time for this evolution, not just in cryptocurrency, but privacy coins for sure as well.
Yeah. What's crazy is when you think about, and, going back to data being sold and stuff in China right now, just an example of how this can become extreme in the use of this data, like your credit score is now attached to like social sites, right? So if you're on a dating site, your credit score is there, right? And that credit score isn't just affected by not paying a bill on time. It's like also affected by what you purchased, because I don't know, I just recently bought some weird shit. I bought a gallon of lotion online, for artistic reasons, not for anything weird.
Right.
But imagine me going to a car company asking to buy a car, and then they look at my history. Oh, this dude's buying gallons of lotion. It could have, just that could affect your score, right?
Yeah.
And so this is like, and people with higher credit scores get like preferential treatment in airports and stuff, and within dating sites. So I don't know, man. All I'm saying is, if I was on a dating site in China, I would be getting no action.
What did you use the gallon of lotion for? I got it.
Well, I'm an artist, and so right. I actually make these lotion paintings right now. This is all lotion. Well,
wow.
Lotion and color, hand sanitizer.
That's super cool. And they kind of coagulate to make that texture.
Yeah. So just
that's very cool.
Yeah, it's just it's nothing really, just the next big thing.
Yeah, that's right. We're going to tokenize that painting right behind. We're going to throw it on Euro. This is going to be, Bitcoin is passe. We have a new king in town. Lotion and hand sanitizer tokenized. Love it.
Straight on the blockchain, baby.
Right on. So I'll pop into some questions from the community that they had about Spectrecoin. Let's see which one is the best one to pop into first. All right. So first one, I think, is just a very obvious one on people's minds. There are lots of privacy coins out there. The big king in the space, long-term, been around for years and years, Manero. How would you compare Spectrecoin to Manero? What would you say are some upsides to Spectrecoin? And also to, just be objective, what are some areas that Spectrecoin still needs to grow into where Manero is?
So Monero is an awesome. I really like Manero, but we were talking about earlier the difference between proof of work and proof of stake. Monero is a proof of work coin, so that requires more resources, right?
Yeah.
Like when staking with Spectrecoin, you can stake, from your wallet on your computer, or you can stake on like a little Raspberry Pi. Here's a Raspberry Pi, right? Small, lightweight, uses little energy. I'm using this one. I hollowed it out. I put some wasabi peas. Put wasabi peas in there.
You are
an artist. Function. They're cheap. only $30. You don't have to spend thousands of dollars on, mining equipment. You buy buy some of these, $30. You can mine, you can start mining. So that's one major difference. Also, you can use peas. Also, a big difference is Spectrecoin comes with native Tor, and that protects your IP address. Right now, Manero doesn't, although they're working on it. It's on their roadmap, but they don't have it yet, that IP protection. And the biggest upshot to me is growth. So if you look at Manero, it's a way bigger coin in the space right now, has a larger history, but it doesn't have the same potential for growth. So for me, if I'm using, trying to look into the future, peer into the future, get my moon boys hype, right?
Yeah.
I'm thinking Spectrecoin has a lot more room for growth. Here's some factors, right? It just formed a foundation, a non-for-profit foundation that'll continue the work of the Spectrecoin tech, which is just a privacy tech. And a lot of the members, the lead core members, have become public now with their identities, which allows it to be more, for the bureaucracy of exchanges. That's a good thing. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot larger percentage now, or a chance for them to be accepted by exchanges. Just released that stealth staking that I'm talking about, the only proof of stake coin out there where you can stake privately. So all these are good things as far as the future upside of Spectrecoin. If Spectrecoin hits the market cap of Manero, it's at $69.39 right now. Boom.
Mm-hmm. You know how much to compare the market caps, I believe. I'm looking here. Monero 1.6 billion.
Exactly.
And we have Spectrecoin sitting at 10 million. So there's a significant upside for sure. Obviously, there's a lot of factors that play into it. I think mobile wallet is going to be a massive one that's really going to help Spectrecoin along, and of course, exchange listings and brand recognition and all these kinds of things. But I feel this is a time now where, even though Bitcoin is very much the king, even though it does not have the best tech, and Monero is still the king, even though it does not have the best tech either, I do feel there is a shift in the waters as we're starting to realize, or not even just realize, but projects are starting to gain a lot of headway that do have good tech. You could compare EOS and ETH, for example. I know a lot of people not big fans of EOS, but there is very much a shift in the tides there happening just because the tech is better. And so when you compare projects like Spectrecoin or Monero, and better is obviously a subjective thought, but there's a lot of evening out to happen, I feel. I really love what you guys are doing with Spectrecoin. So
yeah, I was just going to say, easy, like if you're thinking about the difference of Spectrecoin and Monero, Spectrecoin is very similar, IP protection, receiver protection, sender protection, stake anonymously. But a little jingle I sing to myself. I sang it today, or when I was in the shower.
Yeah.
I was like, here you go, remember. Spectrecoin's like Monero, but POS, you piece of shit. Now I remember it.
Love it. That's hard.
Yeah,
what city are you living in right now? Philadelphia?
I'm in the Midwest right now, but I'm from New Orleans. So
okay, well, there you go. There's where the influence came from.
Yeah.
New Orleans influence. Right on. So next question coming in from Mayank in the community. He says, if I swap another non-privacy coin with Spectrecoin, how would that swap be hidden as well, since the other coin promotes transparency? I'll just leave that with you. I know some people, neither of us are going to advocate that this is the right way to go for it, but some people want to hide some capital gains. Is that possible to do when you're transferring from I guess you could say a regular coin into Spectrecoin?
Yeah, to go back, Spectrecoin is a dual coin, right? So you have XSpec, the public version side, and you have Spectre, the private side. You can interchange between the two, depending on your privacy preferences. Most exchanges right now exclusively only use XSpec, right? So how this would work is you would trade your coin for Bitcoin by XSpec, and then you would turn the XSpec in your wallet into Spectre. which would be completely private. It's almost like a magic trick, right? Like once you go from Expect to Spectre, the history of those two, it disappears.
Right.
You can make the currency disappear. So I think that's probably how most people would do it, given the way exchanges are right now. But you know what? Go through decentralized exchanges. Don't have your try to move more toward that direction. Don't have your stuff. Don't be airing your dirty laundry if you're doing dirty. And be safe with your data.
Yeah, 100%. I think those are key foundations that we're going to start to need to see implemented more and more in our society, or we're going to start seeing a split between what you talked about before, that complacency and our ability to leverage the tools to empower ourselves to stay private and to do what we want. And it's going to be interesting to see how the next few years develop and what happens in the roadmap for Spectrecoin. I'm keen and interested to see how the mobile wallet development happens and integration and ease of transfer between then as well. Is Spectre currency listed on any exchanges right now, or just XSpec?
Spectre was listed on an exchange, Amsterdex. It went down for whatever reason, and then they're pushing back when it's going to come through. Will they come through? I don't know. Who knows? It's one of those things,
It's tough for emerging projects to really get a good exchange listing. I'm working with that myself. Good exchange listings, easily 20, 40, 60, $100,000 at the minimum.
Why are you going to pay these? It's so outrageous. You're going to pay an exchange like whatever, like 7 Bitcoin to grant you the privilege to, give them money through each trade transaction. Like what?
Yeah.
Outrageous. You know what I mean?
Spectre needs to start making like a private exchange. That'd be the holy grail. I mean, I guess that's a decentralized exchange right there. So
it is offered through BISC. You have a decentralized, you can get Spectre coin through, which is BISC, which is great.
Okay. BISQ, yeah?
Yep.
Okay.
The area where I think Spectre coin suffers the most is in, I think there's big room for community growth, and I think there's big room for liquidity and exchange growth.
I fully agree with that. All right. Well, Jason, thanks so much for swinging on. What would be some final words of wisdom, or what's one quote that you love to live your life by? Besides trust nobody.
I would say do your research, look into coins, because so many of them are shit. I'm gonna tell you honestly right now, I researched a ton of privacy coins. Spectrecoin is in the top percentile right now. I'm being totally serious. I'm an idiot. I don't know. Do your research, look into it. So many coins promise stuff and they don't have it. Look at the GitHub. Look at their GitHub commits. See what the developers are doing. Become knowledgeable and invest prudently.
That's super strong advice. And just to piggyback that as well, if you're looking to compare different projects, go into the other projects subreddits and ask questions about their competitors, because they will highlight for you the weaknesses, because I fully agree.
That's a slick.
That's how I usually do a lot of my research. But great advice. Educate yourselves, guys, and see you next time.